Bringing his fire, seek Yahweh, seek meekness, do his judgments, walk in righteousness, learn Yah's path, he will lighten it. While we fighting this, we the same blood, have the same Ima, and the same Abba. We all are slaves, live the same drama. My people, we be true brethren. 400 years have we learned a lesson, how good and pleasant if we dwell together. Yeah, 2 is better, 3 is hardly broken, and millions live forever. The enemy wanna cut us off to be a nation, never, but the shackles are severed. Soon we'll be one nation with one king, one law, all serving one Elohim.
Gather your saints together,
Let's gather.
bring them all together. Those that made a covenant through sacrifice, Yah's life. Gather your saints together, bring them all together. Those that made a covenant through sacrifice, Yah's life.
Gather together, O nation not desired. Gather together, let's gather together. Come on, gather together, O nation not desired. Gather together, let's gather together. Let's go. Gather together, O nation not desired. Gather together, let's gather together. Come on, gather together, O nation not desired. Gather together, let's gather together. Let's go.
Gather your saints together, bring them all together. Those that made a covenant through sacrifice, Yah's life. Gather your saints together, bring them all together. Those that made a covenant through sacrifice, Yah's life.
Yeah. Praise Yah. Let's gather together.
Yeah, 39 books. Yeah, come on. Yo, seek ye out the book of Yah and read. Speak these words to plant your holy seed. Obey his voice, know him and believe. Understand his Yah is none but he. In the beginning, he told us the ending that we wasn't winning because of the sinning. The 400 sentence of Charles' descendants needed repentance, and this is our Genesis to our Exodus in Leviticus. Learn, put some respect on this, so we can number our days. The teachers that we was the slaves in Deuteronomy 28, the most popular. When he anointed Joshua, it's proving that Yah love us by sending his judges, rejecting the grudges, embracing the truth. Other nations, the truth is shown through Ruth, the woman that David come through. Pete Samuel 1 and 2. Yah's chosen the kings and you one too. Recognition Chronicles in the first and the second, and Ezra Kohen fasted by the river Ahava stood with Nehemiah in the time of Hadassah, better known as Esther. Job struck with disease and boils that festered, and we giving our arms while singing Hebrew psalms. The most wisest words are spoken in Proverbs. The Colette, the teacher, ecclesiastical preacher. Fellas wanna reach up, quote the song. The songs belong to Solomon. Understand the way that I'm on. Isaiah, Jeremiah, lamenting when Jerusalem fell. Also seen by Ezekiel. Vision vividly given to Daniel. Yah said to turn to him in prayer. Remember Hosea. If we call on YAH'L, he'll remember us well. Spoken by Yoel. There's no other book as famous. The words get deeper in Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, and Micaiah. There's none like Yah that rides on the whirlwind in Nehemiah. I'm giving you a look like he gave to Habakkuk. Gather yourselves and learn from Zephaniah. Consider your ways, word up to is the last days, and men Zechariah. Remember the law of Moshe, and this has been 39 books given to you by IshiYAH. Malachi, seek ye out the book of Yah and read. Speak these words to plant your holy seed. Obey his voice, know him and believe. Understand his Yah is none but he. Seek ye out the book of Yah and read. Speak these words to plant your holy seed. Obey his voice, know him and believe. Understand his Yah is none but he. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Come on. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Come on. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Seek ye out the book of Yah. Come on. Yeah. Let's go.
We ride for,
Yeah.
we die for,
Yeah.
serve Yah only cause there is no one besides one.
Let them know.
We ride for, we die for, serve Yah only cause there is no one besides
Let
one.
them know.
There is none before Yah.
Yeah.
There is none beside Yah.
Yeah.
There is only one Yah.
Yeah.
There is only one Yah.
Tell me.
There is none before.
And that's Yah.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
Let them know once again, say it.
There is none before.
And that's Yah.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
Yeah. Say, we ride for, we die for, serve Yah only cause there is no one besides one.
There is only one Yah.
Captivity is looked on us. We still tortured, struggled by the system, adorned in Edom's garments. Only meant for slaughter on a level. The black rose that grew up by the concrete, drip blood from the rose petal. A house severed, many dry bones lie in darkness. The speckled bird around to make a meal out the carcass of the unlearned to see locked right in their mouth. Cause we turn the deaf ear and the wisdom is it cried out. Awake and gather a nation that's not desired for the seeking of the most high face. But soon expires, not the lie. So I made a song to prophesy that we have to do away with the wicked, seek the most high and their reply. We already did it, so stand aside, cause the people that is waiting on Yah need them a sign, so we say,
There is none before.
and that's Yah.
Let them know.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
Let them know that.
There is none before.
And that's Yah.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
Yeah. We ride for,
Yeah.
we die for,
Yeah.
serve Yah only cause there is no one besides one.
Yeah.
There is only one Yah.
Yeah. My feet planted holiness of Yah in this sanctuary. Righteousness was spilled, many secrets revealed. Right on the seventh day, the fear of Yah, walking on his ways. Truth, righteousness, mercy, judgment maintained. Can't forget about perfection, we must be equal. To be restored, to bring goodness to Yah's people. Change feeble, broken by the word of Yahweh's prophets. Darkness is not the option. Yah light will guide us out of obscurity. Cleaving to Yah is what the meek will do. The words of Yah show to them. Soaks the oak podium. We'll procure your treasure no matter what other nations do. Gotta change up our hearts and we will make it through to know that
There is only one Yah.
Let them know that.
There is none before.
And that's Yah.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
One more time, let them know that.
There is none before.
And that's Yah.
There is none beside.
And that's Yah.
There is only one Yah.
Yeah. We ride for, we die for, serve Yah only cause there is no one besides one.
Let them know.
There is only one Yah.
Take them home.
Let's go. We praise Yah. We praise Yah. Come on. We praise Yah. We praise Yah. Come on. We praise Yah. We praise Yah. Come on. We praise Yah. We praise Yah. Come praise Yah, we praise Yah, come on, we praise Yah, we praise Yah, come on, we praise Yah, we praise Yah, come on, we praise Yah, we praise Yah, come on, come on.
Giving all praises to the mighty Yah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to another beautiful broadcast of Nothing But the Truth. I am Mowreh IshYAH from the House of Israel, located at 2330 Kemper Lane, here to bring you nothing but the truth. And we like to say shalom to everyone that is tuned in our listening and viewing audience. For we know the only reason you have tuned into our program is because of your great fear and your great love towards the mighty Yah. And who is this Yah? Yahweh is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Yahweh is the only judge, the only lawgiver, the only king, the only redeemer, and the only savior of Israel in the world. And Yahweh is the one that has raised us up and even ordained us to bring you his words of truth. And that's what we will do. And today we're going to continue what I was teaching on the third day of the week, when I attempted to teach on the throne and the crown. But technical difficulties interrupted our lesson, and
Start your show now. Press 1.
and we were not
Since
able
it
to
appears you're
give
calling
you
back into a live show,
a,
we are reconnecting you now.
consistent teaching on this very important
Your
topic.
show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
And therefore, we're going to make sure we're able to give you this consistent lesson today. The throne and the crown. And let me show you who the throne belongs to. In the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter. In Daniel, the 4th chapter, we'll begin reading in verse 17, where it says, "This matter is a decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up kings, and setteth up over it the basis of men." So the throne belongs to Yah, the Most High. He's the one who rules in the kingdom of men. The throne is his. And let me show you what this throne is in the book of Isaiah, the 66th chapter. So remember, the throne belongs to Yahweh. He ruleth. But what is this throne? It's in the book of Isaiah 66, verse 1. "Thus saith Yahweh, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye build unto me? And where is the place of my rest?" The throne belongs to Yah. And Yah's throne is heaven. That's what it is.
But Yah's throne has a purpose. Let me show you another scripture that gives you the undoubtable conclusion that Yah's throne is heaven. In Isaiah the 40th chapter, verse 21 reads, "Have ye not known? Have ye not heard? Hath it not been told you from the beginning? Have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in." So Yahweh sits on this throne. And the scripture said this is the circle of the earth, because it encircles the earth. It compasses the earth. In a circle. And this thing is covering the earth. That's why the word throne in Hebrew is kiseh, which means a covering. Where some people think that kiseh means a full moon, and this is not true. But kiseh is the covering, and the word throne is kiseh in Hebrew, because it covers the whole earth. Yahweh sits on top of this throne, and he is above this throne, and he is above the heavens. But when he sits to rule in justice and in judgment, he's sitting on his throne. Let me show you how Yahweh deals, what Yahweh does, even in the book of Nahum, book after Micah, the first chapter. It says, verse 1, "The burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the Elkoshite. Elohim is jealous, and Yahweh revengeth. Yahweh revengeth and is furious. Yahweh will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies." Yahweh is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all accept the wicked. Yahweh hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. Why? Because he sits on heaven. This is why the clouds are the dust of Yah's feet. His throne is atop of heaven. And let me show you another example of Yah's throne in the book of Ezekiel, the first chapter. In Ezekiel chapter 1. I'm going to just start at verse 22. Ezekiel is explaining his vision. And in verse 22, he said, "In the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of a terrible crystal stretched forth over their heads above. And under the firmament were their wings straight, the one toward the other. Every one had two, which covered on this side, and every one had two, which covered on that side, their bodies. And when they went, I heard the noise of their wings like the noise of great waters, as the voice of the Almighty, the voice of speech as the noise of a host. When they stood, they let down their wings. And there was the voice from the firmament that was over their heads. When they stood and had let down their wings. And above the firmament was over their heads was the likeness of a throne. You see, above the firmament, and what did Yahweh call the firmament? Heaven. And above the firmament, which was over their heads, was the likeness of a throne, as the appearance of a sapphire stone. And upon the likeness of the throne was the likeness of the appearance of a man above upon it. And I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire round about within it. From the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loins even downward. I saw as it were the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about, as the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain. So was the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of Yahweh. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard the voice of one that spoke. So Ezekiel had a vision of Yahweh. And in his vision of Yahweh, he seen how Yahweh had his throne and how he even traveled in this throne. And this throne was what Yahweh used to travel in his own peculiar way. And even Ezekiel said that above these creatures that were undoubtedly the carriers of the throne, they had a firmament above their heads, which is the heaven. They had a heaven above their head. And above this heaven was a throne. And in the throne was the color of sapphire stone. Now, if you go to the book of Exodus, the 24th chapter, in Exodus, the 24th chapter, start reading at verse 9 where it says, Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel. And they saw the Elohim of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, the body of heaven in his clearness. You understand? Yahweh lets you know that he has a throne. It's the color of sapphire stone. It's the color of heaven. And not only is it the color of heaven, in reality, his throne is heaven. But he's above the heaven and above the heaven of heavens. So his literal throne that he literally sits upon is even designed as the heavens. This is the work of Yah. Something that we can't do and even fathom. We just can read about it and wonder. So this is even the description of the throne of Yahweh, only recognized and seen by his servants. Now, what was made on the second day? In Genesis, the first chapter, the 6th verse reads, and Elohim said, let there be a firmament in the midst of heaven, of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And Elohim made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. On the second day, Yahweh made heaven. So the heaven is purposed to be created on the second day. But Yahweh gave a time and an appointment to heaven. And the time and appointment to heaven is the second day. That means this heaven has a purpose. And how do I know this? Because of what it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. And what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the throne and the crown. And I'm showing you right now what Yahweh's throne is. See, we need to understand Yahweh is not like us. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. We think of thrones and we think of fancy seats that anybody that has enough money or pull or influence can sit on. People always want to try to take the throne. I got this throne. Yah's throne is a peculiar throne. You see, it's a throne that no one else can design, a throne that no one else can sit on, a throne that no one else can even rule from, because it belongs to Yahweh. You can't even make a throne in the fashion and the manner that Yahweh has. Why would we even deal with these other kings of the world when they don't even know how to be as royal and as high and as prestigious as the Creator? But Yahweh has connected his throne to his creation, even heaven, because he wants you to know where you must go, where you must address all your prayers and supplications. And in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, the 1st verse reads, to everything there is a season, which means to everything there's an appointment. To everything there's a season and a time, which means it's even measured. To everything it's appointed and it's measured. That's why there's a time, because that's a measurement. So to everything there's a season and a time, to every purpose. That means everything you can think of, every plan you can contrive, every scheme you can plot, everything you want to do, there's an appointment and a time, or there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, under the throne. Under Yah's throne, there's order. Period. There's order under Yah's throne. So Yah's throne is established with order. Because look what it says in the book of Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter. If you serve the King, Yahweh of hosts, then you must understand your king's rulership. you must understand the fashion in which your king rules. He covers the world. And if you're his servant, then you should walk in his paths. You should keep his decrees. You should establish and witness to the throne in what it's established in, which is order. You should be witnessing to order. And what is this order? Yahweh said in the book of Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, the 4th verse, hear, O Israel, Yahweh, our Elohim, Yahweh, Akkad. Yahweh is one. Yahweh is united. Yahweh is unity. Yahweh is one. There's no division in Yahweh. Though Yahweh is an Elohim, the Elohim, which means powers. His powers are united. That's why Yahweh is one. He has all power, but he is united. This is why the second purpose of marriage is to be one. The first purpose of marriage is that man should not be alone. The second purpose of marriage is to be one. He said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She should be called woman, for she was taken out of man. And man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh, united. That means you leave your father and your mother's house. You're no longer under their rule, and now you become one, united with your wife. And y'all have unity. And now everything else can be established, because the one thing that needs to be established is now there, and that is unity. Yahweh is one. His throne was made on the second day, heaven. His name is one. Let me show you. In the book of Zechariah, the 14th chapter. In Zechariah chapter 14, we'll start reading in verse 7, where it reads, "But it shall be in one day, which shall be known to Yahweh, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be that in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. And Yahweh shall be king over all the earth in that day," which means there's not going to be any dispute. You're not going to have men trolloping around the world, flexing muscle to try to convince the world that they rule. Yahweh will be the undisputed and undefeated king. And no one will disregard this fact as they do today. Yahweh is king already. Yahweh is undisputed and undefeated already. But the people don't recognize him. But in this day, the world will recognize that Yahweh is the king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Yahweh, and his name one, because he's united. And the world will be united in the fact and in acknowledging that Yahweh is one. And this will be established, and this is already established under the throne of the Creator. If you go in the book of Psalms, the 89th chapter, we're going to start reading in verse 11, where it reads, "The heavens are thine, the earth also is thine. As for the world and the fullness thereof, thou hast founded them. The north and the south, thou hast created them. Tabor and Hermon shall rejoice in thy name. Thou hast a mighty arm. Strong is thy hand, and high is thy right hand. Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face." What is this letting you know? It's letting you know that Yah's throne, this beautiful design that is sparkles like sapphire stone, that creatures with wings carry, that has a firmament under it. This throne that Yah sits on, this beautiful masterpiece called heaven, in this throne of Yah, is established in justice and judgment. This is what Yah's throne is established in. This is what the heavens are established in. Therefore, what should the servants of Yahweh be established in? If you are to walk with Yahweh. Now, what is the second requirement that Yahweh requires of his servants? In the book of Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter, the 12th verse, the second requirement that Yahweh requires of the children of Israel, those of you that acknowledge that you are the children of Israel, that know you are the children of Israel, that are woken up to the truth of the fact that you're not just the descendants of some slaves that came over on some ships. You are undoubtedly the children of Yahweh. And like any other king, he has requirements in order to be in his kingdom, in order to be a good and upstanding citizen and servant of his kingdom. You must follow these requirements. Yahweh doesn't want representatives of him that don't follow in his requirements. Then you're misrepresenting the throne, which is established in justice and judgment. And in Deuteronomy 10 verse 12 it reads, "And now YIsraEL, what does Yahweh your Elohim require of thee? But to fear Yahweh your Elohim, number one requirement. Fear Yahweh your Elohim. Revere him. Pay homage to him. Honor him. Fear him. He sits on the throne. Fear Yahweh your Elohim and walk in all of his ways. Number two, walk in all of his ways. That's how you show forth your unity with Yahweh. To walk in all his ways. Why would you want to walk in all the ways of Yahweh? So you can show forth your unity. Because not only is it a requirement, it's also a commandment. In Deuteronomy the 18th chapter, verse 13 reads, "Thou shalt be perfect with Yahweh your Elohim." And when you look up that word perfect, it does not mean without spot. It does not mean without sin. It does not mean void of mistakes. What it does mean is whole. Thou shalt be whole. Or in other words, sincere with Yahweh your Elohim. So therefore, what did he tell Abraham in Genesis, the 17th chapter? In Genesis chapter 17, Yahweh spoke to his friend, his best friend, Abraham, in verse 1, and it reads, "And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, Yahweh appeared unto Abram and said unto him, I am Almighty Elohim. Walk before me and be whole, perfect, sincere," which means you might make a mistake. I might make you make a mistake just to check your sincerity with me, just to check to see if you are as whole as you thought you was. You are one with Yah. That's being perfect. That you are united with the Creator. That's heaven. United with your spouse. That's heaven. United with your brethren. That's heaven. United with your nation. That is heaven. But there's no better slice of heaven than being united with Yahweh. That is the representation of heaven in his throne. Because now you're dealing with justice and judgment. And since Yahweh told this to Abraham, that he shall walk before him and be thou perfect, this means Abraham should have been a representation of his king. He should have been a representation of what his king established the throne in. And you'll find in Genesis, the 18th chapter, that Abraham was just that. In Genesis 18, verse 18, or let's start at verse 17. And it says, "And Yahweh said, Shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. Meaning what? Meaning Abraham was sincere with Yah. Just to give you one more scripture of proof, in Genesis, the 25th or 25th chapter, 26th chapter, excuse me, it says in verse 4 or verse 3. Well, let's just start in the second verse. Where it reads, and Yahweh appeared unto him and said, go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I will tell of thee. Sojourn in the land, in this land, and I will be with you and will bless you. For unto thee and unto thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swore unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and unto thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So Abraham walked before Yahweh in perfection. He was united. Yahweh is one. He is united. Yahweh requires you, the order of two, the second requirement, to walk in all his ways so you can too be united. The second purpose of marriage is to be united, because his throne is established in justice and in judgment. And you have to be in this manner and fashion if you are a servant of Yahweh. So when you want to know about Yah's throne, it's a throne of justice. It's a throne of judgment. We don't even want to deal with its sapphires and its beauty until you understand it's a throne of justice and judgment. That's its purpose. So when Yahweh says to everything, there's a season, which means an appointment, which means there's a particular space and time in which this purpose is to arise. The purpose of Yah's throne is justice and judgment. And we must be one with this. Now we go back to the book of Genesis, the first chapter, and you look and see what it says in the 8th verse. It read in the 8th verse, and Elohim called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. You don't see where Yahweh said that this was good, because heaven was not finished on the second day. So Yahweh didn't call it good, because good, in the words of the Creator, means to be complete, whole. This is good to Yahweh. That's why he said how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. This is good and pleasant because unity represents something that's whole. And to be good, you got to be whole. But heaven wasn't made whole on the second day. No, we'll go to the 14th verse. And we'll read verse 14 where it says, and Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament, meaning like setting some fine jewels in their place. He set these lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good, whole, complete. In the evening, in the morning, were the fourth day. So these lights were appointed in the fourth order, appointed in the fourth day. The time of these things was the fourth day. It was appointed, set in order in the fourth, which means it has a purpose. It means something. And what does this fourth represent? This fourth represents Yah's praise. The second represents Yah's name. So Yah's throne has an attachment piece. Yah's throne comes with something in order to structure his kingdom. And that is these lights. Now, when you look at royalty today, they want a throne and they want a crown. Well, what did Yahweh say is a crown? In the book of Proverbs, the 12th chapter. Verse 4 reads, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. Well, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. Crowns shine with glorious light because they are set with precious jewels. In the book of Proverbs, the 14th chapter, the 18th verse says, the simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. And this word crown, in Hebrew, it means to encircle, go all the way around, which means these lights that was made on the fourth day go all the way around. Around what? The circle of the earth, which is what? The heaven. but the prudent are surrounded with knowledge. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. She compasseth him with light. Look at Proverbs 14 and 24. In all labor there is profit. Wrong verse. That was verse 23. Verse 24 says, the crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. The wise, his crown is his riches, and it ain't talking about money. It's talking about the light that shines forth from the wisdom, from the wise. Why else would Yahweh make on the fourth day these lights to go in the firmament and set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth? You're literally looking at Yah's throne and Yah's crown. He made representations of them so you can always see them and know you're dealing with something way higher than yourself. Who else can make a representation of his kingdom, his throne room? Look what I'm telling you here. In the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter, the 9th verse reads, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels a burning fire. Daniel had a vision of Yahweh in the throne room. But Yahweh has made the heaven as a representation of his throne room. Glorious. Lights abounded with lights. And all of these lights are ordered. All of them. You may not know the order, but Yahweh does. And he let us know that his crown is where he puts his jewels. That's where his crown is. That's what his crown is. Even look in the book of Isaiah. Because Yahweh will put a crown on his servants. And you have to understand, why would Yahweh put a crown on his servants? In Isaiah, the 28th chapter, start reading on the first verse. It says, woe to the crown of pride. Yes, because this is what people have been wearing for many, many, many years, a crown of pride. And Yahweh hates a proud look. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is fading flower, is as a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. Behold, Yahweh hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down the earth to the earth with the hand. The crown of pride and drunkards of Ephraim shall be trodden under feet. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower. and as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he that looketh upon it seeth, while it is yet in his hand, he eateth it up. In that day shall Yahweh of hosts be for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people, and for a spirit of judgment to him that sitteth in judgment, and for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. Yahweh is letting you know his crown encircles. That's what he said. In that day, Yahweh of hosts shall be a crown of glory, meaning he'll compass them with glory, his remnant. Because that's what Yahweh does with this crown. It represents how he surrounds the world with light. But his servants know the order and what this means. It means it's time to praise Yah. But Yahweh will put crowns on his servants. Look in the book of Isaiah, the 62nd chapter. But you can't get a crown if you don't represent the throne. And in Isaiah 62, verse 1 will begin, for Zion's sake, for Zion's sake will I not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest until righteousness thereof go forth as brightness, and the salvation thereof as a lamp that burneth. And the Gentiles shall see thy righteousness, and all the kings thy glory, and thou shalt be called by a new name, which the mouth of Yahweh shall name. Thou shalt also be a crown of glory in the hand of Yahweh, and a royal diadem in the hand of thy Elohim. See, Yahweh will crown his servants, but you have to represent the throne, which is heaven, which is his name, which is justice and judgment. So you got to be one with Yah if you even want to have this crown. And let me show you what the Creator did in the book of Exodus, the 39th chapter. Because like I said, he puts crowns on his servants. And he even has an order established in which certain people should be wearing crowns. And in Exodus 39, start reading at verse 30. And they made the plate of the holy crown of pure gold, and wrote upon it a writing, like to the engravings of a signet, holiness to Yahweh. And they tied unto it a lace of blue, to fasten it on high upon the mitre, as Yahweh commanded Moses. This is the crown that belonged on the head of the high priest. So he put a crown on the priest. Why would Yahweh put a crown on the priest? Because he's representing Yah's glory. But let's see who else Yahweh would crown. If you look in the book of Ezekiel, the 16th chapter. And in Ezekiel chapter 16, we'll look at verse 12. where it reads. No, we'll start a little earlier. Verse 8, it says, Now when I passed by thee, looked upon thee, behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee, and covered thy nakedness. Yea, I swore unto thee, and entered into a covenant with thee, saith Yahweh Elohim, and thou became mine. So what is Yahweh letting you know? He married you. Then washed I thee with water. Yea, I thoroughly washed away thy blood from thee, and I anointed thee with oil, meaning I made you mine in this covenant, and I cleaned you up. I got you together. I clothed thee also with embroidered work. I took those rags you thought was good clothes. I took those away, and I gave you embroidered work, and shod thee with badger skin. I gave you really good material. And I girded thee about with fine linen, and I covered thee with silk, meaning I upgraded you. That's what Yahweh is saying. I decked thee also with ornaments, and I put bracelets upon thy hands, and a chain on thy neck. That's what you're supposed to do when you get your wife. You give her ornaments on her hand and on her neck. This was verse 12. And I put a jewel on thy forehead, and earrings in thine ears, and a beautiful crown upon thy head. Yahweh did this to Israel. He's showing you how you're even to adorn your wife. Put jewels on her, jewels in her ears, ornaments on her hands, and on her neck. But Yahweh did this with his whole nation. And he even put a crown on them. But what does Yahweh say in the book of Ezekiel, the 21st chapter? Verse 25. It says, And thou, profane, wicked prince of Israel, so you done messed up, whose day is come, when iniquity shall have an end. Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, remove the diadem, and take off the crown. This shall not be the same. Meaning, we messed up. So he took the crown off our head. He took away the jewels. And what did he do? He said, exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. He flipped it. The ones that had the crown, the honorable. He said, nah, they going to be abased. And I'm going to put crowns on the low. Exalt him that is low, and abase him that is high. I will overturn it, and it shall be no more. Meaning, he done took all the royalty of the world. That's why you hear black people saying, blacks were kings. We ruled the world. Blacks ruled the world. Well, Yahweh overturned this because blacks thought that they ruled the world as Yahweh ruled. Blacks forgot that Yahweh is the king He sits upon the throne. They forgot this. So now all of their descendants say, we ruled the world. And Yahweh said, I will overturn, and overturn it. And it shall not be no more until he come, whose right it is, and I will give it to him. So who is he talking about? Who's going to come whose right it is? This crown belongs to someone. And Yahweh is going to give it to this person who it belongs to be a just and right representative of the throne. Well, this would have to be a servant of the Creator. This would have to be someone that Yahweh has picked. Well, let me show you who this is. Even in the book of Psalms 132. And in Psalms 132, it reads verse 10. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away thy face of thine anointed. Yahweh has sworn in truth unto David. He will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimonies that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon thy throne forevermore. For Yahweh hath chosen Zion. He hath desired it for his habitation. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. I will abundantly bless her provision. I will satisfy her poor with bread. I will also clothe her priest with salvation, and her saints shall shout aloud for joy. There will I make the horn of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for my anointed. What does that mean? The horn of David shall bud. It means his crown will shine. This horn is rays of light. He said, for there will I make the horn of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for mine anointed. His enemies will I clothe with shame, but upon himself shall his crown flourish. And this is who Yahweh put the crown on. This is whose right it is. This is who it belongs to. This is who will represent Yah's throne in justice and judgment. Even in the book of Isaiah, the 9th chapter. This is why the Christ of the New Testament is not this one. Because he doesn't deal in the light of Yahweh. He doesn't deal with justice and judgment. He doesn't deal in order. But in Isaiah 9 and 6 it says, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his throne name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty Elohim, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The Elohim of Yahweh of hosts will perform it. Don't you see? When we are going to receive Yahweh's king, that he will uphold, he's coming with justice. He's coming with judgment. He's coming speaking the words of Yahweh in a manner that many have never heard before. He's going to be talking about the order of Yah, because he's going to represent Yah's praises. That's why this fourth day he made the sun and the moon and the stars to give light upon the earth, to shine forth this glorious light, and to be a representation of his glory, of his praise. That's how you represent Yah's praise, by speaking about such wondrous works, such great judgments, such great justice. Not speaking about yourself, not speaking about who's going to die in search for Easter bunny eggs. No, you're going to speak about the justice and judgment of Yah. It will only be glorious to the ones that are seeking Yahweh and want to be established in the ways of the Creator. This representative of Yah's throne that's crowned by Yah will be David, and he will speak words that only the righteous will understand. They will understand this order that he speaks of. They will understand this justice that he speaks of, this establishment that he speaks of, and it will be perfect. Even if you look in the book of Isaiah, the 42nd chapter. And before you go there, go to Psalms 113. In Psalms 113, it says in verse 1, praise ye Yahweh. Praise, O ye servants, Yahweh. Praise the name of Yahweh. Blessed be the name of Yahweh from this time forth and forevermore. From the rising of the sun to the going down of the same shall Yahweh's name be praised. This is what Yahweh ordained the fourth for, his praise. David, the king of the fourth, he's from the fourth tribe. The fourth covenant are the sure mercies of David, which you can read about in Isaiah 55, verse 3 and 4. David is an instrument of praise, writing the book of Psalms, containing the majority of the Psalms in this book. David created 4,000 instruments and appointed people to sing in Yah's house from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. David will establish Yah's kingdom in justice and in order it and establish it in justice and in judgment. Because Yahweh will set up one that represents him. So when we look for this deliverer that Yahweh will send in the very, very near future, when you seek Yahweh, your Elohim, in David your king, you're going to be looking for one that speaks of Yahweh's order, Yahweh's judgment, Yahweh's justice, and that walks this wholeheartedly, and that shines as the crown that Yahweh has made. And until tomorrow, Yahweh loves you very much, and so do I. Shalom.
I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. Hokmah and Benyeh and Da'ath and night. Counsel to fear Yah and adore His light. These are the spirits we need in our life to walk uprightly, be pleased in His sight. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for His Spirit. I long for His Spirit. I yearn for the Spirit of Yah. All I need, the Spirit of Yah. All I breathe, the Spirit of Yah. Can't you see the Spirit of Yah? Wanna be in the Spirit of Yah. I long for His Spirit.